Hey everyone. So now we are going to start building the backend of our application. And as you can see, we are going to make use of Socket.io and WebRTC to build our application. What I mean is, for right now, we are going to actually start by setting up our backend, okay, basic APIs, and that will include setting up our authentication APIs in general. Okay, so we are going to make sure that we are able to log in and sign up to our application, and also during the sign up process, you can see that we are going to ask the user to verify their email with the OTP. So that means we are going to send an email, okay, and we are going to also explore that how we can send emails programmatically along with a template message. So that is what we are going to learn, okay. And after that is done, let me tell you that in order to build the rest of the APIs, which means for this message part and also for the audio and video call, we are going to take care of that using Socket.io and WebRTC. This will be used for the real-time communication, okay. And also in the profile section, as you can see, we are going to upload our image, and also inside DMs, since we can send media messages, okay, and also these documents, so it's obvious that we are going to also include some kind of storage, okay, like AWS S3, or I can also use Supabase, okay. So I'll tell you how to make use of some storage service to store your documents or files for free. So this is it, and we are also going to learn how to stream our audio data, media, okay, files, everything through Socket.io and WebRTC. So this project is going to become functional after we build our APIs and integrate it with our client side, okay. And also you can see that we can have different formats of messages, okay. So in order to start building our backend, first of all we need to initialize the project, okay. And so for that purpose I have opened up my terminal window, and as you can see inside my terminal window, I'm currently at the desktop folder, okay. So here we need to create a project. So let me just write mkdir, this means make directory, and let me call it Chatty Backend. Now after we do this, next step is to navigate inside this Chatty Backend, okay. And here we are going to now open this folder inside our code base. So I'm going to write code space dot. This is going to open up my code editor. Let me show it to you over here. This is the project that we have created. Right now, this Chatty backend is totally empty and there is nothing inside it. So let me just zoom in a little bit, and then we can start with our first step. So the first step is to initialize npm over here. Okay. So I'm just going to write npm init, and then we'll be presented with few questions. First of all, it's asking us the package name. So I'm going to go ahead with this Chatty backend. Then the version, it's fine, we can have version 100. Then description, if you want you can add some line over here. Entry point will be our server.js file, so I'm going to modify this thing, server.js actually. Then test command, I'm going to leave it empty for now. Git repository, I don't want to set up it right now. Let's also leave keywords empty. Author, here I can just fill in my name. You can also do the same, okay, fill in your name. Then license, I'm just going to keep it default. Okay, so everything is correct. You can see this object which has certain key and value pairs, okay. So we are going to go ahead with this. I'm going to enter yes and press enter. Okay, now you can see we have a file over here called package.json. So we are now ready to install dependencies inside our project. Okay, let me tell you what are the dependencies that we are going to need. I'm actually going to cover most of them in just one line. So let me just try it over here, npm I. So the first package that we are going to need inside our application is bcrypt.js. This will be used for hashing the messages, passwords, OTPs, and other things. So here I'm just going to write bcrypt.js. Then the next thing we need is course for adding the course functionality. Okay, that means cross origin requests. We are going to block some requests from the other domains and only allow them from a particular domain that we'll be deploying our application on. Then after this, in order to work with the environment variables, I'm going to install this package .env. Okay, And let me tell you that if you face some difficulty or if you have some doubts during the live stream, please ask them. And I'm actually checking the comment box so I can answer all of your queries. Okay, right away. Now let's continue with this. Since we are building an Express Node.js application, so obviously we are going to need Express package for that. Okay. Then JSON Web Token will also be required for building the JWT token. So we are going to include this one. Then to build our schema, since we are going to use MongoDB, and for MongoDB I prefer to use Mongoose as the ORM. Okay, so I am going to install this one as well. Then let me also install nodemon actually, so that we can, whenever we make some changes to our application will be reloaded. Okay, this will save us a lot of time. Then obviously we are going to need socket.io in order to build our signaling server. Then in order to build unique IDs, we are going to need this UUID package. Okay. Then there are, few more packages that we need to install. So let's just finish them uh, over here. So after UUID, I want to install OTP generator. Okay. The name suggests what it's going to do. So I don't need to explain it. Okay. It's going to be used to generate OTP, which we'll send through email. Then we also need a logging package called Morgan. This is going to help us to see all the logs inside our terminal when we are developing the application, and also it can be used in the production mode. I'll show you how. Okay. Then after this, I also need this helmet package. This helmet is actually going to help us, in including or basically setting up some headers which are, for the security purpose. So I'm going to include this as well. Then express rate limit. You can understand what is meant by rate limit. Rate limit means we are going to use this package to basically specify that in any particular given time, let's say in 1 hour, how many requests can any particular client make. This is going to save our application from, uh, API hits. So sometimes people can, launch a bot which is going to, bombard your API with lots of queries which will make it crash. So we want to prevent that, and that is why we are going to implement a rate limit inside our application. Okay. Then I also want to add express Mongo sanitize. Now this word sanitize is already, self-explanatory. It is telling you that whenever we get some data from the client side, we are going to make sure that it's free of any malicious code which is going to harm our application or our database. Okay. So this will be used to sanitize the data coming from the client side. Okay. After that, I'm also going to include cookie parser and cookie session. So let me write cookie session and cookie parser. You must have used, cookies or seen it on the websites. So these packages are going to help us implement that thing. And also when we get some, request from the client side, we need to parse it so that we can use it inside our controllers, or you can call it middleware as well. So we are going to make use of body parser for that, so that we can understand what's coming inside the request. Okay. So I think, let me check just one more time if anything is missing. Okay, there is one more package called crypto which is missing right now, so I have included that at the end. Now we can just hit enter and all of these packages will be added inside our dependencies. Let's just wait for all these packages to get installed. Okay, so now you can see that all of these dependencies are now present inside our package.json, and we have got a package log.json file for, maintaining the versions, and here we have our node modules. That means the external dependencies. Now I'm just going to minimize my terminal window, and then we can start first of all creating the project setup. What I mean is defining how we are going to structure our backend. So the first step is creating the entry point, which is server.js. Okay. Now this is a file which is going to contain the server, and server is going to start listening. Okay. Only then any API can hit, any request can hit to our server. Okay. That is why we are going to create our HTTP server inside this file. Then in order to create our Express.js application, I'm going to create a separate file app.js. So this is going to encapsulate all the code for our Express.js application. Then we are going to need few folders over here, like I'm going to call the first one controllers. What is meant by controllers? Controllers is going to contain the logic for each action. Let's say some user signs up to our application, then that is an action. Some user logs in, then that is also another action. So each action is going to it's going to be performed using some certain steps, okay, which will be followed in sequence. So we are going to define everything inside controller related to the to those actions. And after that, we are going to need a routes folder in order to set up routing inside our application. If you don't know about the routing, I'll tell you about everything you need to know about it in detail, so just wait for it, okay. Then in order to define the schema, that means how we are going to store our data inside the database, we need a models folder. Inside this folder, I'm going to create lots of models, okay, which will tell us how we are going to store our data, what will be the fields, what are the validation rules, and all those things. And after this, let's also create one more folder for the helper functions. I'm going to call it utilities. And so this is it for now. I think we can work with this folder structure. This is going to be sufficient for right now. But later on, actually, we're also going to separate all the socket handlers. So I'm going to create one more folder for socket handlers, okay. This means all the functions which are going to involve socket IO, we are going to uh, put them inside this particular folder so that we can have nice structuring, okay. So this will lead us to less confusion, okay. If we want to basically work on this application or make it bigger, then we must structure our code base very properly. Let's also create one more thing. I'm going to call it services. Now this services is for uh, the external features like sending the mail, okay. This is some additional feature that we are going to implement. Then in order to send the email, we are going to make use of some kind of template, okay. So for that, I'm also going to create this template folder. Don't get overwhelmed, okay, by seeing this folder structure and files. Everything is going to make sense. Just keep on following what I'm saying, okay. Then the last thing is creating a environment file where we can store all of our environment variables, okay. So this is going to be our config.env file, which is going to contain all of the secrets like the MongoDB connection URL, the password, okay, and also uh, the access ID secret key for our storage bucket, everything like that, okay. So I hope you understand what we are doing till this point. Let me see if there are any comments inside the chat box. At least you can just say hi if you are watching me, okay. I'll appreciate that if you show some kind of engagement. Anyway, let's continue with our application. So first step is to set up our server, okay. Let's see how we are going to set up our server.js file. So over here, actually we are going to need our express.js application, but we can leave that part and continue with this one first. So here, let's just first get this http from the http package. So I'm just going to write http require http, okay. Now please note that we haven't actually installed any such package with the name of http. If you go and take a look inside the package.json, you won't find anything with this name inside dependencies. But if you take a look inside our node modules over here, then you will find http folder, okay, because it's the built-in package, okay. So that is why you have to just include it. It comes built in with node.js, okay. Then after we have access to the http module, we can create an http server, and that is very simple. We can just write server equals http, and on this http we have a method called create server. Now this create server requires us to pass an application, okay, and here we want to pass an express.js application. So we need to go back to our app.js file and first of all create an express application, okay. Now in order to create an express application, we are going to need the express package that we have installed. So let me write express require express, okay. Then after this, let's also import other packages like morgan, okay, that we are going to require to basically log everything that is happening inside our server. So const morgan requires morgan, okay. Then we are also going to need a rate limit package. I'm just actually going to copy and paste this over here so that we can save some time, because I'm just writing over here and there is nothing logical about it. So here you can see this rate limit package, we have included it, and there is explanation for it written over here as well, that this basic rate limiting middleware, it's a basic rate limiting middleware for Express application. And what its use case, it's used to limit the requests to the public APIs or endpoints, such as it's just an example password reset, but it can be applied to anywhere. Okay, I mean any API. So after this, let's also get all the other packages in just one go, and then we can build our Express application. So that I'll explain you what is Express application and how the middlewares work. So here I have included this helmet package, you can see, and this helmet package, it's clearly saying that helmet is going to help you to secure your Express.js application by setting up various HTTP headers. Okay, and also there is a list of all the HTTP headers that it's going to set up. So it's going to set up like all these things, so you can just take a look at it. And if you want, actually, I'm also going to provide the code base, so don't worry about this. You don't need to basically miss out on anything, you'll get everything. Then we have Mongo sanitize package. This Mongo sanitize package is going to, you can see, it's going to help us sanitize our data, so that we can be sure that we are not getting anything which includes a dollar sign or anything which is malicious and which can harm our database. Okay, so here you can also see how it filters out the data or how it sanitizes. It's going to check at everything inside request body, params, headers, query, and it's going to make sure that it doesn't contain anything with a dollar sign or dot characters which can harm our database through queries. Then we have this XSS clean package. Okay, actually I think we haven't installed this package, so let me just make sure inside package.json. Yes, we don't have it, so now I'm just going to install it. Let's write XSS clean. I'm going to actually tell you what is the purpose of this package. So there is lots of types, there are many kinds of attacks that can happen on our server. Okay, and this XSS clean package is going to help us prevent one of those attacks, which is called cross site scripting. Okay, so it's just a security measure that we are taking over here. Then we have body parser, which is going to act as a middleware. I can explain you middleware with the help of a diagram, so just wait for it. For now, if you don't know much about middleware, don't worry. Just remember the term, I'll explain it to you. Okay. Then here you can see we have the course package installed, cookie parser and session. Then the next step is to create our Express.js application over here, and it's just a simple line. We need to write app equals express. Just call this express that we got over here, and you'll have your Express.js app. Okay, it's that simple. Now onto this app, we can actually add many middlewares using this use function. Okay, so whenever I write app.use, I'm just going to add another middleware in the flow. Okay, so first middleware I need is the course. Okay, again I'm telling you, don't worry about middleware. Okay, if you don't understand this term, just imagine it like a pipe. You must have seen a pipe, and I'm just going to tell you that a pipe has two ends. Okay, one from which the liquid, or you can call it information, anything, it's going to come in, and from the other end it's going to get out. But we can always make connections in between, through which the other data can flow, or it can also modify the flow. Similarly, middleware acts like that. But the this term will be much more clear after I build the first middleware inside controller, so just wait for that moment. Okay, for now, let me just explain you that inside this course, we need to pass some configuration inside this curly bracket. Okay. So the first thing is we must specify the origins that are allowed. Here, origin means domain. You must have visited many websites, and each website has a domain. Okay. Let's say abc.com. So if I want to allow that particular website to make request to my server, then I'll just type their domain. But for now, since we are developing this application, I want to allow each and every domain, okay, to make request to my application. So I'm just going to put this asterisk sign. So this simply means star sign means we are going to allow every origin to make request to our API. Then we also need to define methods which will be allowed. So there are many methods, and when we are building our REST application, okay. So here we are going to allow get method, patch method, okay. I'll tell you about get, patch, post, delete, put, okay, because these are the methods that will be used inside our application. So this will be much more clear when we set up our routing. For now, again, you just need to remember these terms, okay. And some of them are pretty explanatory, like delete, get, okay. And here we have our put. So these are the 5 methods that we are going to allow, okay. Then I'm also going to set this credentials property to true, okay. Now after setting up the course, let's also add other middlewares, because right now you can see that we have imported these packages like body parser, cookie parser, but if you hover over them, it's going to complain you that cookie parser is declared but its value is never read. That means we haven't used this package. So let's now make use of it. We need to just write app.use again to add another middleware, okay. So here I would like to add cookie parser, okay. Then after adding cookie parser, I'm going to set up express JSON, okay. So here I'm just going to write app.use and then express.json. This is for parsing the JSON data. Here the data limit will be set to, you can just set the limit like 10 kb, okay. Usually the data that comes in, it's in it's very less. So I'm just going to limit the data to 10 kb. It's large enough for our purpose. And if you later on want to increase it, you can just come over here and increase the file size, okay, or the data size to be specific. Then let's write over here again app.use, then body parser dot json, okay. So I want to parse the body into the JSON format. Then also app.use, if we get URL encoded data, then again I want to set up a parser for that. So I can write body parser dot URL encoded, and here I want to set this extended property to true, okay. Let me just put the semicolon in the correct place. Then here after this thing, next up we are going to make use of helmet so that we can set up appropriate headers for the security reason, okay. So app.use helmet, make sure to call the helmet, don't just write the name, otherwise it won't work, okay. Make sure to call it. Then in order to set up the logging, which you are going to see inside the terminal, we are going to set up package called Morgan. So you have seen that we installed this Morgan, and also we imported it on the second line. Now I'm going to use it over here. So let me just write app.use Morgan. Now if you are watching this and if you are thinking like, I'm not getting why he is using all these different kinds of packages, so let me tell you that first of all you need to watch this, okay. And after that, when we start our server, then you will see why we have implemented each and every package. Everything will be clear when we write more code and run our application, because building backend is all about first of all you need to watch someone how to do this particular thing, then understand it in your own way. If you have some doubt, make sure to ask them, okay. Over here inside Morgan, we need to configure it. Actually don't need to pass the object. We just need to tell it like in which mode we are currently running. So I am running in the development mode, so I want the, so it's going to give us like very detailed logging, okay. Then let's create limiter. Limiter is going to be uh, you know as the name suggests, it's going to help us limit the number of API calls on our server. So here we need to make use of this express rate limit package, okay, and we have imported it with the name of rate limit. So I'm just going to call this function, and then inside it we need to pass some configuration. Here first of all I'm going to set the max value, okay. Then the time limit, so here we need to set window ms, which means in milliseconds. So here I want to actually define 1 hour. So for that I can just write 60 minutes, then 60 seconds, and let's convert it into milliseconds, which will be multiplied by 1000. So in 1 hour, okay, I want to allow maximum of 3000 API hits. If any client is exceeding this limit, then we are going to give them an error message instead of response. So here I'm going to type that message that you have made too many requests from this IP, from this IP address. Please try again in an hour. Okay. So whenever some user or client hits the rate limit, then they'll get this error message instead of a response from our API. I hope you understand how this thing is going to work. But for now, we have just created this limiter function. We haven't used it. So right now, I want to make use of it. So let me just write app.use. And actually, all of our APIs are actually going to begin with this slash API. So whenever any route matches this format, which means it has this slash API at the start, okay, then we are going to apply this limiter function on that. Okay. So let's say if user hits any route which doesn't contain this slash API uh, at the start, then this limiter function is not going to work on that. Okay. If you just want to, apply this on every API call, then write it like this. Okay. But in our case, we are going to make it such that only the API calls, which, starts with this slash API will have this limiter functions executed on them. Then at the last, I want to just set up few last things, which is app.use. Here I want to write express.url encoded. Okay, again for the passing, extended true. Then after this, let's also add the Mongo sanitization feature so that we check the body and params query everything for the malicious code. Here I can just write app.use actually. Let me correct it, app.use. Here we need to write Mongo sanitize inside it. Okay. So this will help us sanitize our data coming from the user. Then after this, we can use XSS package, which we have installed over here, which is for cross-site scripting. It's going to prevent us from that attack. So let me just write XSS. Okay. Then here, let me just leave a comment that we need to add routes. Okay. Now this is going to happen when we create routes inside this folder. So for that purpose, I have created this comment. Let me also write to do so that I can search for all the places where I have left something. Okay. Now you might be wondering why I have this different styling for this particular comment when I wrote this to do. Also, I can show you that if something is important, I can just mark it like that, like this with the exclamation mark. So this is actually coming from this extension called better comments. So if you want the same functionality, you can also install this particular extension. It will be very useful in all of your projects. Okay, I recommend installing that. Now at the last, we just need to use this app that we have created, this express app inside our server.js. Okay, remember that's why we left our work on this file and went to this one. So now we need to export this from this file, and the way to do that is we have to write at the end module.exports after everything is done till here. Okay, that means adding middleware. We are done with that. Now we are going to write module.exports, and this will be equal to app. Okay, let me again check for any comments in the uh, comment section. Okay, so yeah, we are going to now continue with this thing, and since there are no questions, whenever you join, just write a hi message. Okay, now here I'm just going to continue with the server. As a next step, we need to import the app that we are exporting from app.js. Okay, so here inside server.js, I'm going to write const app require, and here we need to pass the path to that app. So dot slash app. Okay, now we can use this app, express.js app, inside our create server. Now we have got access to the now we have access to the server, and then we want to connect to our MongoDB database. And when the connection is successful, I want to start my server. Okay, so for that, what we are going to do, let me just show you. We have created our server. Okay, now I also want to define the port on which my app is going to run. That means my backend. So I'm going to write port is equal to, first of all, we are going to check the process environment port. So here I'm going to write process.env dot port. First of all, check that if it is not found, then use process.env dot API port. Okay, so this port is actually going to be defined when we are in the development mode, and when we are production, we'll set up this API underscore port inside our environment. So now we need to go into this config.env, and here I'm just going to write the port on which I want my app to be running. So I want this app to run on port 8000. So let's write 8000 over here. Okay, this is simply how we need to define it. Okay, we have defined the port, and let me also define the other thing, which is API underscore port. In case let's say we are not using this one, then we must define at least one of them. So API port, I'm going to set it to 5000. Okay, we are also going to need other things like Mongo URI, and we are going to get this Mongo URI in just a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it empty for now, and we are not going to magically access any environment variable. We need to make use of the .env package inside our server.js. So let me write over here, after importing the app, const .env write the require statement, and then the package name, which is .env. After requiring the .env, we need to call the config option on it. So let me write .env .config. Okay, now inside this config, we need to pass the path property inside the object. So the path from which you have to take this config.env file is dot slash and then config.env. Make sure that the path is correct, otherwise these environment variables will be undefined. Okay, and this will result into an error. So I hope everything is going good till this point. Okay, and as a next step, we can set up our MongoDB. Okay, so for that we need to first of all go to the MongoDB website. Okay, so let me take you to the browser. Then here we need to just type MongoDB inside our browser. Click on this mongodb.com. Actually, there are two options. We can also run MongoDB instance on our local machine, but right now I'm going to show you how to create an Atlas instance. Okay, so just go to the MongoDB and click on try free, and over here you need to now sign up with this MongoDB application. I'm just going to I already have my account, so I'm going to click on sign in, but if you don't have one, just click on the sign up. Okay, and here let me just sign in with my GitHub account. Okay, so there is some error signing in with GitHub. Let me just try Google then. I think the sign in is going to be successful this time. Yeah, so I am signed in inside my MongoDB. My MongoDB dashboard, you can see that. Okay, I already have created one cluster, but now I'm going to show you how to do this from scratch. So when you don't have any database, just go to this deployment section, under which you will see this database. Okay, and you can also create multiple projects, and you have your organization as well. So here actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another project. Click on create new project, and let's call it Chatty. Okay, here you can add tags. Okay, but I'm just going to skip that thing. I'm And here you can see you can invite other people to manage your project. Right now my email through which I'm currently signed in, it's going to act like the project owner, so I have access to everything. Okay, I can do every possible action on this particular cluster. So let's click on the create project button. Okay, so now we have another project built in. Okay, and you can see now I am switched to the Chatty project. Here you see we got this button which says create a cluster. Okay, so click on this big green button which says create. I'm going to actually choose this M0 free instance. It's going to provide you with shared RAM and shared virtual CPUs. Okay, the storage will be limited to 512 megabytes, but this is enough for developing this application. If you want to use it in real life, then you can deploy it somewhere, and also you can upgrade to other servers. I'm going to help you with that. If you want more knowledge about this other clusters and how to set this up, you can message me on Discord. Discord link is given in the channel page. Now you can customize this cluster name, but I don't think there is any need. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Make sure this automate security setup is set to checked, and I don't want any preloaded sample data set, so I'm going to leave it unchecked. You can choose any provider of your choice, and also make sure that you are choosing a region which is closest to you. Currently I am in India, so here this Mumbai AP South 1 region is the closest to me. Okay, I don't want to add any tags, so I'm just going to leave this as default and click on create deployment. Okay, so now we have to wait for few minutes or even seconds for this cluster to be created. As a next step, we have to set up the connection to the cluster. So here you can see it's actually asking me to create a username and the password. Right now you can see the password on my screen, so don't try to use this username and password because I'm going to change it, okay, later on after recording this video. So for now I can just copy the password, and the username is codingmonk22. You'll see your own username and password on your screen. I'm just going to click on create database user. Okay, after the database user is created, we have to click on this choose a connection method. Now since we are going to develop this application and we are writing code, I want to connect it using the driver. So click on the drivers, and since we are using Node.js, so select Node.js and 5.5 or later. Okay, then over here you can see that they are giving us this command npm install MongoDB. I don't need to do that, okay, because we are using Mongoose as our ORM. And here you can see right now we are not seeing any connection URI because cluster 0 is still in the provisioning mode. Okay, so it's going to take up some time. It's also displaying us this message, okay, so that it takes generally 10 to 15 seconds for the provisioning process, and also clusters are built with 3 nodes for resiliency. So you can just now click on the done button and wait for this process to get completed. Till that point we can go back to our server.js and continue with our setup. So I hope everything is clear till this point what I'm trying to explain. Okay, if you get any doubt, please make sure to ask that in the comment section. Okay, and if you are watching this video when this course is completely finished, okay, and all the parts are posted in a combined video, even then you can ask your doubts in the Discord server. So just make sure to join it from the channel page. The link is given over there. Now let's get back over here. After we created our server, I want to make use of the Mongoose package. You remember inside our package.json, here inside dependencies we have this package called Mongoose. Now we are going to make use of it. So back into the server.js file, at the top I'm going to write const mongoose require mongoose. Okay, now after writing that line we are going to write mongoose dot. Okay, and then over this we need to call this connect. Okay, now inside this connect method we need to pass the MongoDB connection URI. This connection URI is actually going to come from config.env, and the key for that is mongo underscore URI. So I'm just going to copy that, and over here I'll write process.env dot and then the key which is mongo URI. After we call the connect method, this is actually going to return a promise. And if you are watching this course, I'm sure that you know about promises in JavaScript. So we are going to handle it with this then and catch block. So let me write then. Okay, so if the connection is successful, we are going to get something inside this then, and the callback will be executed that we are creating over here. And if we get into an error, then this catch will be invoked and we'll get access to the error over here. Okay, so in case of error, what I'm going to do, let's first handle this one. I'm just going to log something inside the console. I'm going to say that database connection failed. Okay, database connection failed, and we can just simply write server not started. Okay, then after writing this message, let's also uh, console log the error. Okay, error object, so that we can inspect it and figure out what went wrong. Okay, now inside this then block, this is going to be executed when the connection is successful. So when the connection is successful, I want to start listening on the port, okay, through this server. So I'm just going to execute this listen method on our server, HTTP server. So I can write server.listen, and then the first thing we need to pass is port. After doing this, we can again create a callback function over here as the second argument. This will be executed when the server starts listening on that port. Okay. So let's say in event when the port is busy, okay, or if our server is not able to just start listening on that port due to some reason, we are going to again get an error. But in case if it starts listening, so we are going to get print this message into the terminal. So let me just write console.log. Here I'll just say is listening server is listening on. And since I want to write the port variable over here, so I need to make this string into a string interpolation. Okay, it's not going to be a normal string. Here we'll have to put the backtick instead of single or double quotes. So I hope everything is clear till this point. Now we can just go back to our browser and see if the cluster is created. Okay, so here you can see the cluster is created. We can click on connect drivers, and now you can see this is your connection URI. Actually, I have already copied something which is my password. So I'm going to paste it. Oh, sorry, I actually copied my password when I was creating this database user. Now I need to first of all get this connection URI. I'm going to paste it over here inside my this is our Chatty backend. So this Mongo URI, it's going to be equal to the connection URI that we copied. But here make sure that you replace your DB password along with this angle bracket with the actual password that we created in the second step. Okay. And since I have lost my password, so I need to create another user for this database. So what I'm going to do, just close this window, and here inside the security setup you have this database access. Okay, and you can see this user with the username of codingmonk22 has the access as the admin of this particular cluster. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another database user, and this user is going to access the database with a password. Okay, so here you need to provide the username and the password. Actually I'm going to auto generate my secure password. Okay, then let's also give it some name like API user. Okay, then I don't want to showcase my password, so I'm just going to leave it like this. I'll just copy it. Then over here you can also configure other things, but we want to leave it just like that. Okay, and click on add user. Here actually we are not able to, sorry, we left one step, and that is role. I want to give everything that means access to every possible action to this particular user. So I'm going to give it this Atlas admin role. Okay, that means it can manage this particular cluster as the admin. So now here I'm going to click on the add user button. This is going to create the user for me. I'm going to actually not save this password. Let me just click on this cross button for that. Then we can just go back to our code base, and over here I want to replace this thing. Please make sure you are replacing this angle bracket at the start and end as well. Okay, don't leave that. Now after that we can just replace it with our password. Again I'll change my password, so don't try to use my instance. Okay, you should create your own and use that one. Okay, this is just so that my instance doesn't get closed, because I am also developing the application, so I need it in the running state. Okay, after everything is done, we should run our application and test if it is connecting to the database, and also this express application is correctly set it up or not. So for that we need to go inside this package.json file, and inside scripts I'm going to write a script. I'm going to call it start colon dev. Okay, which means starting in the development mode. You can create your own script name if you want. And here I'm just going to write nodemon server.js. This means we are going to start running this application with this server.js file. So now you can just, after saving the changes, you can go to your terminal and you can write npm run start colon dev. Okay, this is the command that we want to execute, start colon dev, which and this command will get executed in the in the backside. So when I hit this, you can see nodemon is running, and after a while I get to see some error inside my console. So here it's saying that MongoDB server error happened, authentication failed. So we can now actually go over here inside our server.js, and let me make sure that we are getting this process env over here correctly. So I'm just going to console log process.env.mongo URI. So let me just copy this thing and paste it over here. Now we can just, after, since there was a change, so this node 1 restarted. Okay, and here you can see again we got the error. Okay, and yeah, so this is the MongoDB connection URI that I am seeing. It's saying again the same thing is happening. So at this point I'm actually going to stop this live stream because it's running for a pretty long time, and also in the next stream I want to start setting up the model for the user and also start creating the APIs for authentication system. We are going to first of all start by explaining the reason for this, failed authentication. So this is it for this one. If you have any doubts or questions, you can ask that in the comment section. Okay, so there are no questions. So I'm just going to close this stream at this point, and we'll see you in the next one.